everyone. Discord message. Yeah, so this stream is different than anyone I've ever done before. I usually play a game. Let me just check that the chat is working. It should show up on your stream. Yes, it does. So, last time, just chatting kind of surprised me. It came after Phasmo, and I had a lot of fun. And I realized afterwards, like, for a game, the game kind of distracts. I mean, having chat alongside the game kind of distracts from the game. So I don't really want that there, but I don't want to leave, like, viewers out either. So it's a bit of a balancing act, and I've chosen to leave it in games, but when you're doing just chatting, then there's really no reason to leave the chat out, and, like, I don't want to leave the VOD watchers out, like. So yeah, I have this screen, and I made it right after I had that chatting thing. So this is what we'll be using when we do chatting streams, if we do more than one. Yeah. So I'm a little nervous because, I mean, technically second chatting stream, but kind of the first. Oh, thanks, James, and welcome. Yeah. So, our topic today is magic objects. Because, like, okay, in all the stories, they're just, like, they're ancient things, sometimes with great power, I mean, oftentimes. But somebody had to make those. And why is that not, like, magic objects have so much potential. And I hope you're doing well, James, by the way. Magic objects have so much potential. And it's also like, so even if they're ancient, there's some guy, like, picture this. There's some guy experimenting, trying to enchant objects. And you don't really know how to enchant an object yet. So you're just testing things out. And so you may end up with, yeah. I guess I don't have to read your guys' chats anymore if it's not important. Well, if I'm not specifically responding to it. Anyways, so there's a wizard in the tower, and, like, okay, I'm very scattered. When somebody's coding, one of their first projects is just, like, to type hello world. So imagine that in magic objects. You have this magic book or something, and all it has in it is that whenever you open it, it says hello. Yeah, the ancient stuff is, like, always ultra mega powerful thing, and it's complete opposite IRL. Yeah, that's a whole thing in media, like, the cool stuff are all in the past, and it's really sad. It's like they liked cool stuff, but then they were saying, hey, this would be really awkward for my story and I don't want to deal with it. Let's just make it exclusive and very situational. It's always so sad. Like, you have a world of magic, and all of it is inaccessible to people. Like, yeah. But yeah, like, and imagine a wizard, and he's great at, like, making magic objects. And, like, maybe he's even, like, focusing on swords and stuff. But in the meantime, like, his glasses always get dirty and mess up his research. So he takes some time to enchant his glasses to make his work more efficiently, but now you've just got a pair of self-cleaning glasses lying around. Like, the magic objects. Yeah, in real life, wizards would copy each other's code. This new chat screen is going to take some getting used to. And now you've got a pair of glasses, you know? Self-cleaning glasses. Or maybe like the wizard needs to measure things for like the magic or something. And now you just have these pairs of glasses with this odd measuring system that doesn't actually work for like non-magic, and maybe the wizard made it up himself, so it's just like projecting lines, and you don't know what those lines mean, and you can't really make use of those lines without the knowledge of what they are. And all it is a fancy measuring system. Yeah, and then it's like, so maybe magic objects, like the art has been lost. You're telling me nobody is trying to get that art back? And there isn't just some weird guy who's like managed to make rings that slightly warm or something? And like even that is probably sellable. You know, you don't want to put on a cold ring anymore. Like this ring will always be room temperature. Cause what do you do when you make something? You try and market it. So even if like any sort of practical magical objects are around, that doesn't mean there are no magic objects around. Yeah, and then it's like why don't we enchant, like, okay, there's a lot of enchanted swords out there, but where's our enchanted hammers? I can think of Mjolnir, and that's kind of a weapon of God, and nothing else. And like our enchanted spears, I'm not sure I've ever heard of one outside of like a set of weaponry. I might have heard of a couple enchanted bows. Where's our enchanted daggers? Don't see those much, except if it's like a ritual dagger of darkness and doom. Ah. Rick Rodin. What did he make again? Google. Oh, yeah, Percy Jackson. I should probably read those someday, but like I don't read much these days. Yeah, I really wish. I'm bad at names. Yeah, my sister has read them. I think there was a pen that turned into a sword, and then there's also like a talking sword or something. Two separate swords, I believe. And then there was like a hair clip that turned into a weapon or something. I don't know. I vaguely recall her talking about like a whole junkyard of possibly enchanted stuff, and you weren't like supposed to take anything, and somebody took a hair clip. And I don't remember if that turned out horribly or not. Yon, welcome in. What if it's a sword that turns into a sword? Like a classic kind of King Arthur sword turning into like a katana or something? That could be cool. How goes your plot armor lately? I mean, plot armor doesn't seem to work in Phasmo, or at least when I'm playing by myself. Yeah. And it's just like, why? Okay, in books and stuff, they always focus on like the fighting and that kind of uses. But where's my utilitarian uses? Where's the ice makers and the refrigerators? And like they don't have to resemble refrigerators or anything at all, but like ways to clean water, and those would be highly valuable things. I'm talking about magic objects, and in Percy Jackson, which I have not actually read, but they have like a pen that turns into a sword or something. Yeah, Hermione did have like a bag that fits anything, and I know D&D also has something like that where it's a bag of holding, and I do love those. And that is one of the more common things to make it in, just a bag that holds more. Yeah. My brain has gone blank. Yeah, Harry Potter actually does scatter around some magic objects, which is one of the reasons why I'm like, it has so much potential. And then it's just like, not taking it into account any of it. Or, yeah. Oh, cool. That's awesome. Yeah, in my long running world, I have rocks, well, gems, and one of those is used to clean water. So that's cool. And then another of those, like, when mixed in the plant, it promotes, like, it's kind of based off of, like, limb regrowing type regeneration. So you pick the fruit off the plant, and it just grows back. So that's super cool. They're not actually that expensive. My world is a bit more, utopic in strange ways. Like, it's not a classic utopia, but the water purifying gem is actually very common, as is the food, like the regeneration gem. So there's creatures in the world that are like kind of divine. They're not gods. I don't know. Anyways, so they have powers, and their hair or whatever sheds off, and eventually, like, it mixes in the ground, and they turn into these gems. They don't regrow limbs. I haven't entirely thought about their effect on people, but I don't think it would be that excessive. However, the same creatures that shed these things and form into these gems, they bless some much rarer amount of people. And the people blessed by the emerald is the gem that regrows stuff. So people blessed by an emerald, they can regrow limbs. They have incredible regeneration and super strength. But they don't have the weight for it, which is a rather interesting situation. So they actually sometimes make like really heavy armor, so they have more of the mass to use their strength with. You're gonna hoard those people? Why? A ukulele made out of celestial bronze. That sounds cool. Yeah, so my world is interesting in that, like, you don't have food problems, you don't have water problems, you don't necessarily have housing problems, but, like, they live in a world of, hey, if you're willing to kill me, I'm just gonna stab you too, you know? Like, and they don't have, like, a government. In fact, part of history, which probably wouldn't be in many of the stories, is that they overthrew the government because they were terrible, you know? They started out with the king, Bob the Great, and then John the not the traitor. John the Betrayer came along, and they haven't had royalty since. Okay, but how are you gonna acquire all of the gems that are spread across a good chunk of the continent? It's like, and then they wash up on shore or whatever. So you're gonna have to scour the ocean too, and also, I mean, it's not gonna work. It's just not. Yeah, and then what keeps it a little more utopic is that it has a not so utopic history of a world cataclysm, almost a staple in fantasy, actually. And we have gotten so off topic from magic objects, but oh well. Yeah, so in the past, you really want to hoard them, huh? I mean, maybe technically. So in the past, okay, so dimension travel, other dimensions are real in my world. When something happens, usually time travel or something, and like a world collapses, that can cause what I call a cascade. And like the energy from that world collapsing can collapse the next world, and then the energy from those worlds collapsing collapses another one. So the history is there was this massive cascade, and everybody from multiple worlds that were similar to mine, Demeria, multiple worlds that were similar to Demeria, fled into Demeria and made that like their fortress. And then all of the dragons, which have like dimension traveling power and such, made a shield around their universe to protect them, which is partially like that partially came about simply because of the limitation. If you have multiple dimensions with like doppelgangers and stuff, you're gonna have one really similar to your world. So my excuse is that all of the worlds similar, you know, died, and then more worlds came up, but none of them will ever be that similar because they're like entirely different branches. So yeah. And the dragons after that were really tired, and most of them went to sleep. So, also, a lot of the bad people didn't evacuate and were hoarding their money or not believing people, and they died. So that's how I'm justifying also that there's a lot more good people in my world than there are bad. So you're saying people like me didn't make it? I mean, you could have, but would you have listened to the warnings? Would you have left behind your house or whatever, and not left behind your hoard apparently, or were you lucky enough to have already started out in the dimension that was the fortress, and therefore did not have to rely on moving? Next time I should add the tag incredibly distractible or something. Dang it, I am my own demise. Yeah. So the main stories around Demiria does not actually take place in Demiria because a while later, stupid people happen, and after a convolution series of events, another much smaller, like, I don't know how to classify it as a dimension, but it was like a dimension off of a dimension. Anyways, because of stupidity, that dimension crashed into Demiria. So, Crystal Crescent is now part of Demiria, and the dragons, like, stopped the cascade from happening and grafted Crystal Crescent onto Demiria. However, that created a lot of energy that the opals, which is the dragon's crystal, absorbed. However, that energy still needs released. So the energy is releasing ever so often, but anybody who is not quite as tied to the world, like the immigrants from other dimensions and such, which it's been a long time, so it's hard to track in Bloodline, they will get washed away in these energy waves. And then their adventures take part in other dimensions. It's very interesting, though an awkward situation to work around for sure for story writing. I can never seem to keep with a story. Maybe sometime, or maybe I'll find a way to do short stories better. I love world building though. Anyways, magic objects. I did say that would be what I was talking about. Yeah. World building is amazing. I love it. My mind's blank. Then I get distracted by my own Delulu and proceed to procrastinate the whole day. Well, this is awkward. What are some other magical objects I have? Well, I mostly have stones, crystals. And then I'm not sure Crystal Crescent has magic objects. Yeah, I don't think they have any. No, I don't think Godling would have magic objects yet, really. Just going through the stories in my mind. What first thing comes to mind about magic objects? Um I mean, there's just so many things about like magic objects should be, you know, self-cleaning clothes, um, keeping a sword sharp. That would actually have probably more effects than we might think. Just like not having the sword get dull, just like an average sword, but it just doesn't get dull. I don't know. I suspect that have more effect than we think. And it's just like even slight things can tip the balance of an army, like if their feet doesn't get sore, or like their helmets are enchanted so sweat won't get in their eye, or like if you can make a helmet that does not have eye opening, but like the magic makes the entrance see-through, a lot of knights are actually killed by stabbing them through that small slit with a dagger, not really a sword, you know. The downfall of blacksmith income once magical grindstone appears. I think you need to draw yourself as a dragon, Yon. You're obsessed with hoarding things. Yeah, and like food supply I think is actually pretty important for armies. So like just being able to preserve food in general would be huge. And like one person who can fly would revolutionize like scouting most likely. I honestly wish magic would have more of a day-to-day impact, because realistically humans get a thing and then they say, hey, what else can this thing do? Let's try all of the things to see what this thing can do. Even if the thing might be really dumb, you know? Just put more limitations and consequences of magic item usage to balance it out. Yeah, you could put in like magic items which actually have like a limited battery supply, so they either need recharged or like it just like they lose their enchantment entirely and there's no like recharging them. It's just, yeah, you're done with that one. Or you could put consequences in, or yeah, like maybe it runs off of your own life force or something. Or maybe they have a habit of exploding or something. Or perhaps like magic artifacts are very accessible, however, they're not like super powerful. I want my magic item that makes my vegetables and fruit last forever instead of withering or becoming slimy and yucky. Agreed. Just that I need to take the item out, or else they will start talking about my secrets. Huh? Is that like the limitation? I'm not sure I get it. But yeah, keeping fruit fresh, that would be great. And vegetables. I I mean, if you can, like, make air solid even for a little bit, like, you could just, like, making things over rivers and stuff would probably be a lot easier for bridges and stuff. Yes, the vegetables will yap about my darkest secret if I don't take the item out on time. That's hilarious. Limitations are always interesting. Well, sometimes. I just run across, like, what exactly are the details here? I'm randomly thinking of one anime I watched, and I don't know, I probably wasn't that good, but it was a little interesting power. He could turn trash into trees, I think. And it's just like, what is the constitution of trash here? What counts as trash? 'Cause one man's trash is another person's treasure, you know? People with no secrets will benefit from profit from this item the most, or people with no shame. Yeah, so I'm always looking at, like, what are the actual limitations and details of... No, Jan! I don't think people can be trash, at least when they're alive. But on the other hand, what about clothes, you know? If somebody really rich gets their fancy suit stained, then they might look at it as trash. Versus, like, somebody who's really poor and their shirt has several holes in it. It's not trash to them. Like, but is it the person's, like, is it society's definition of trash? Is it the person who owns the item definition of trash? Is it just the person, like, doing the power's definition of trash? In that case, I mean, I need it to be trash, so it's trash. I guess the moment somebody said it is trash, it is considered a trash till someone says it's not. Maybe. But, like, there's wrappers and stuff on the ground, and nobody said those were trash. It's commonly associated as trash. Maybe another item that looks similar to that has been told as trash. But that single item has not yet been labeled as trash. And then you run across, like, okay, you found a napkin on the ground. And, hey, why isn't this turning into a tree? Well, there's somebody desperately searching for this napkin because somebody's number is on it and it's a treasure to them. And it's like, okay, maybe. But, like, it's a dirty napkin on the ground. It's typically trash. Guessing it's based on the user's logic definition of trash. It's just call someone trash and they just spruce up. Kind of scary. I mean, yeah. Whenever it's made on, like, the mind of the user, it leaves open for, hey, just look at this differently. And, like, surpass the limitations. But then I wonder also, can you choose what kind of tree you grow? I'm not sure if that's ever been clarified, because I'm pretty sure there might be some poisonous trees. And even just, like, you could make so much money on that. Imagine, you just look at one really expensive tree that's, like, in danger or, like, sought after by the rich, and then you make your living out of turning trash into these trees. And you like it's no cost to a lot of costs. Like maybe the tree species depends on the biome. Maybe. However, that would still leave you with several types of trees to circulate through. You know, there may be like standardly fir trees there, but forests are actually made to be balanced. So there's also like alders or like poplars and pines together. I don't really know the ecology of forests, so. But yeah. It is interesting though. I always want to know the details. So this is the type of thing I analyze. And also, I never follow my title. I started with magic objects, that's true. I have not kept on magic objects for most of this. What do you mean I can't grow coconut tree in the middle of a snow desert? And that's another thing to consider. Can you grow... Like, are you just growing a tree, or can you grow a tree that is flowering, or a tree that is already fruiting? Because then you can grow your own food, like, out of season. Or even if you have to be traveling in the right season for apples, you can still, like, grow your own food, you know? More money. Let me ban best viewers. They're lying. They don't have any best viewers. Yeah, magic objects. I mean, having a fire's temperature consistent might help smiths. Because I think the fire temperature does, like, affect the steel's outcome or whatever. So if you can enchant the fireplace to always be consistent, or to be hotter than it otherwise would, that could help things. And as for swords, what exactly enchantments are making all these hero swords so good? Nobody specifies why the hero sword is good. They're just like, yeah, it's good. Trust me. Trust me on that. I mean, I guess it can usually slay the Dark Lord, and that's the only reason why it's good. I don't know, but like, what about it can slay a Dark Lord where nothing else can? We never get any context, not at all. Because sometimes they have energy, but it's not that common. I don't know. Aside from looking cool, Fire Sword actually backfires. Yeah, one of the last things you want is to cauterize your enemy's wound. Blood loss is one of the main killers, I'm pretty sure. Also, Fire Sword can hurt yourself, so that too. It's probably good I drank so much water, but I'm out of water now. A smart warrior would rather open a grill business than slay the demon lord with breasts with fire sword that burns 24/7. Yeah. Also, like, aren't demons usually, like, at the very least more resistant to fire? Why give a hero a fire sword if they're going against a demon? Doesn't make any sense. I think I decided once that. Oh, only this fire can burn the demon. Ah, I got it. Holy fire, maybe. I don't know. I think I decided once one of the possibly most useful enchantments on a sword would be to, like, have its end be invisible, or like the illusion of the sword being shorter than it actually is. Because you go to block, you go to dodge, you aren't dodging what you think you are. Of course, what is the most useful enchantment would probably depend on your style of fighting and who or what you're fighting against. That's kind of evil. Yeah, I mean, efficiency. And why do people always use a sword against a dragon? Like, their scales are usually super hard. And like, what do you use against an armor opponent? You use a blunt force weapon, like a hammer or something. You don't use a sword. Or, like, you want to keep at range at anything that breathes fire at you, so maybe you should think about a bow or a spear. I mean, a sword could work alright if you were, like, very agile. Because I think one of the ideal places to fight a dragon would be from on top of the dragon. Not in front, not beside, not behind, on top of. But you'd have to, like, be very careful about your balance and maybe have some sort of fall damage cancellation sort of thing. Imagine going on a sword length competition. Are there those? Making a very long samurai just to get beaten up by someone with a silly kitchen knife with invisible length enchantment. I'll turn into villain. Yeah. Like, there is the limitation of you have to know the length of your own sword, so you have to be, like, careful. You can't see it, but if you know your weapon, it shouldn't be too much problem. I understand why people don't, but I also wish they would change, like, the world, like the fantasy world, the fundamentals of how things work. So, like, in my world, Cinder, welcome in. Yeah, late, early, I don't know. Not the time I usually stream, generally. Yeah, we're talking about. It was supposed to be magic objects. I keep getting distracted, so just, like, story ideas in general. Oops, what did I do? I don't think. I think it's fine. Anyways, I was saying, yes, fundamental changes to the world. So, like, in my world, oh, I hope you're well, by the way. In my world, it doesn't have a sun in the traditional sense. So, like, the great ball of gas in the sky, in space, does not exist. The divine creatures I was telling you about. ADHD kind of stream. Yeah, probably. Just popping in to say hi before going to work. Well, have a good day at work, Cinder. It's good to see you. Yeah, so we do not have a sun, and I don't know if we have space. Probably not. But one of the divine creatures, swift birds, actually, they create topazes, and they are the world's sun. They provide the light. So then their feathers fall down and eventually form into topazes, which are glowing stones. And these birds migrate yearly. So for part of the year, you just don't have any light at all. And to make this work a bit better, I did actually come up with a different heat source. So the heat and the sun are not connected. But yeah, there's not one giant bird. There's no giant ball of sun. There is a flock of birds providing sun for the world. And then, interesting enough, and distractingly, the area they fly over, Tasmira, the area that is associated with those animals, it's always dark. It's always dark there because the gyms, they provide light, yes, but they also, like, absorb light too. So it's a very interesting situation. The place where the sun resides is actually, like, the darkest place in the world, generally. Though that is also the place that's best suited for, like, when the birds migrate. But you bring out all your topazes when the migration's gonna happen, and you set up your lights, and you have your own personal light. But basically, they just have to use flashlights, you know, a large portion of the year. And actually, fundamental changes of the world, they have basically zero way of telling time or necessarily direction. Maybe direction, but time? We don't have tides. We don't have the sun. We don't have the moon. There is nothing consistent to tell time on in this world. So I do understand it's a lot of work, and oftentimes when you shift one thing, you have to shift another. But it can create such an interesting world. Yeah. So I really do love to play with the fundamentals when I world build and when I, like, do magic and stuff. Because, like, if you're gonna write the human world, plus I guess you can punch a little harder or shinier than usual, I'm not that interested. Which is also why my anime suggestions are low. Though, I don't know if you're still around, James. I've watched some Frieren, and it's pretty good. Good suggestion, thank you. I have not finished it yet, but I've watched some of it. Yeah, magic objects. Yeah, and then it's like, magic objects could be like a different way of using magic. So maybe you have somebody who's not seen as much of a wizard or whatever, but his specialty is magic objects. And, like, okay, so he can't really cast spells, but then he makes a ring that can cast spells for him or whatever. And like, maybe he makes a lot of magic objects that can cast various spells. So he's basically just a wizard with extra steps. But also, if something happens to magic in general, there's the possibility magic objects won't be affected, or will be affected differently or lesser. So that could be very interesting, even if, like, magic is generally seen as more useful. Perhaps magic users always have, like, less useful but still, like, defensive magic objects or whatever to defend themselves should, like, there be something that cuts off their words or something that just blocks magic in general for the most part. You know, those magic cuffs that sometimes go around and like shut off your flow to magic. Magic objects still might work. Yeah. Honestly, it's so much potential. So much. And then it's not just this, like, ancient magic artifact that was made 100 years ago by the Great Wizard, or 1,000 years ago by the Great Wizard or something. You have, hey, this is the sword that was made from Steve down the road or whatever. Magic enchantments on daily objects or magical items that can't be made but found randomly. Huh. Like, magic items could be a thing the world produces? That's an interesting thought. I was talking about magic enchantments on daily objects. Like, if a wizard is good at making magic objects and, like, his work is always interrupted by having to clean his glasses or whatever, you might enchant your glasses to always be clear or to clean themselves. And it could have interesting effects. Like, maybe this wizard was very sensitive to sounds, so he actually, like, enchanted all of the floorboards in his house. So you just, like, when you walk on this floor, you don't make a sound. And that could make a very creepy ambiance, which could be great for storytelling. Okay. I need to get more water. So okay, I didn't put my be right back on this. I'm reading 4 different books right now, and one book I'm reading right now has a world where magic items are spawned randomly and can't be explained. Oh, that's really cool. That's interesting. Okay. Oh, do I have Okay, I switched to the other screen to get Be Right Back up, and I realized it didn't have the audio in it, so my apologies for the black screen without explanation. Anyways, I have to get water. I might make this a 5-minute break. I might be back early. Let's make that a 5-minute break. Just, yeah. Okay, I'll be back in 5 minutes. Alright, I have returned. Yeah, you can do a lot of interesting things with magic, and like, so maybe you want like a haunted house vibe, but you don't actually want there to be ghosts, right? So there was an old wizard who lived in this house, and now, like, the doors are opening and closing on their own, and the windows too, or whatever. You turn around and something that was there before isn't anymore, or whenever, like, you move something, it moves back into place. And the wizard, when he was alive, he had the habit of going around with a book in front of his face. And he kept slamming into these doors, okay? Because he wasn't paying attention. So eventually, he enchanted the doors to open whenever he got near or whatever. And whenever, like at a certain time of day, he always brewed potions or something. And he always forgets to open the windows. So at this time of day, he enchanted the windows to open themselves. And maybe he'd move things and then forget to put them back into place, and then he'd trip over them when he has his notes in his book walking along or whatever. So after a certain amount of time, things go back to normal. And the wizard's long dead and ghosts don't exist, but his enchantments are still there. And maybe they're fully active, or maybe they're just like starting to degrade with time, so they only sometimes do this thing. And you've got a perfect explanation for a seemingly haunted house without the actual problem of a haunting. And you can have your characters discover this or not at all. I find some of the best creations come from working within your limitations. The things you want, the things you don't want. They may seem incompatible, but with enough logic and creativity, they aren't necessarily. And yeah, welcome back, Jan. Yon. I mispronounced things. Yeah. I wish people would apply a little more creativity and some logic, some logical creativity. I don't know. I have a very strange way of doing things into their things. Welcome back, Cinder. Yeah. Yeah, and you could have things you've forgotten about too, or. Okay. Yeah, have a safe drive, Cinder. I'll probably still be here, but I can't make promises because I'm very scattered. And the moment I say I'm going to do something, and I don't know if it's just more noticeable, I don't do that thing anymore. Not entirely. Sometimes it's just more noticeable. Yeah, so like you have a lighthouse or something enchanted to produce light or like shine on the boats out at sea. And if you're new to the continent or whatever, that can look very creepy. And like you might not understand it, and then you have just like this myth of, yeah, there's somebody with a lantern up there, or like a ghost, or there's a creature, or maybe they, like, one of the boats crashed or something. So this lighthouse is actually now seen as a bad omen, like, don't let its eyes fall on you. Or maybe it can be seen as more of a, like a good divine, like a guiding light or something, and it's actually started to be worshipped or whatever. And regardless of if you have magic common in a society, some people might debate one thing or another, and maybe there are people who are like, no, it's probably just a magic artifact or whatever. But also, if you have like the tower sealed up, then you can never really prove it one way or the other. So you can have this religious almost debate of a thing you know what is, and but like that's still a big part of the people who live there now or something. I don't know. And I do think the split in people's opinions is fairly important for a realistic society, for the most part. Because, honestly, oh, thank you. Oh, look at it. Huh? Yep, yep, yep. It's cute. Thank you, Yon. Yon. I can actually see if I can show that on stream if you don't mind. Let's see. Let's see. Image. If I'm putting you on the spot, feel free to say. Don't want to make you uncomfortable. Where'd that get saved to? I wasn't paying attention. Okay, where did I save that to? I need to pay more attention. I lose things all the time because I have folders and folders, and it's just like, where did this go? Because sometimes it ends up in a very unintuitive place. There. Oh, I'll give a transparent background so you can leave it on screen while you yap. Cool. There we go. And here it is. Where's... Okay, not that. What did I do? Okay, Here it is. It's kind of words down there. There. Yes, thank you. I like it. Yeah. Anyways, I've gotten totally distracted. What was I even talking about? Lighthouses, enchanted buildings, kind of. Or like ways enchantments can be seen that might not be true. Yeah, so like a haunted house that isn't actually haunted. You know, you wanted a haunted house vibes. You didn't want ghosts. You got your haunted house vibes without ghosts. The cat is really cute, and I like the books. Yeah, it turns out to be some. Yeah, like the wizard lived in this house, and he enchanted his house to, like, conform to his habits, and yeah, he died or something, or maybe he moved, and it didn't ever get dispelled, and people didn't necessarily know he enchanted it. So then there's just like the myth of maybe like the wizard going about his days even in the afterlife or something. Yeah. Candle is not sponsored? Why would it be sponsored? I didn't think it would be. I like the candle too. Candles are pricey in the swamp area. Interesting. Usually we just use bioluminescent fungi or firefly, but those things are noisy. Yeah, they would be. I'm like, which is why you need glowy rocks. Or magic. Hmm. Yeah, people occasionally enchant buildings, but it's usually done in the more sentient manner rather than, yeah, they baked enchantments into this, but it didn't gain sentience. They're very like code oriented. they're made for specific tasks and they do specific tasks. You shall lurk. Dinner time for me. Thank you for the apps and opening up my Delulu mind to taking magic items in a different perspective. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I could open up somebody's mind. And thank you for the apps as well, along with the picture. Have a good dinner. Have tasty food. Yeah, enchantment on some buildings. I mean, you could have it be like a lights on timers, so they go out and turn on and turn off when you need them. You could have a bedroom that's just always dark because maybe the wizard needs darkness to sleep, but like his sleep schedule is often awful. He often stays up till morning, so like no matter how the light is shining through cracks or whatever, this room is dark. Like candles don't illuminate it. Nothing. This room is dark. You could have a building that's standing in fairly pristine pristine. I was looking for a word, but I guess nature will do. Yeah, fairly pristine, not very damaged at all because like the building materials were enchanted to like never break down or whatever. And to not leak. So I mean that could actually mess up historians where they're like this castle is a lot newer than we think it is when actually it's like so much older. Like it's so old the enchantments are starting to break down that this house looks a little run down or like very run down, but they think it's like, oh, this is like 200-year-old house and it's actually like 20,000-year-old house or something. Those are excessive numbers, but whatever times are reasonable. You could have the awkward problem where like they started building their city around this stuff before realizing this building could not be demolished by like any means they had. So now there's just this weird like this weird ancient house sitting in the middle of this modern city or something. Or modernish, whatever time periods you're talking about. Because, like, they were already making their city, and they can't do anything about this house, okay? Like, yeah. Oh, yeah. Uh, expanding our sphere into, like, enchanted areas in general a bit. I had, like, the idea for a world which is probably a little more complex than I am capable of tackling, but basically it's like the effects of a magic war. So like somebody used like cast eternal fire to like attack the other like people, but this fire does not go out ever. So like there's just like this eternally burning fire and it was spreading or whatever. So they flooded the valley, and now you have a lake with fire burning down there because it's eternal burning fire. It cannot be put out. It's eternal, you know? So, and that can create a very beautiful scene. Though if you look into its origins, it's actually like awful, you know? Like this was the cause, like the effects of war, and like an area of space that just evaporates water or something because they were preventing like the army from marching through. And what is the most things that army needs? It needs water. It needs water. You can't go that many days marching without it. So there's like now this 3-day journey that just you can't bring water in. It just evaporates it. So it's impossible or almost impossible to actually pass. Trying to bottleneck forces, or they sprung it on them and actually killed a bunch of soldiers who ran out of water in the middle of their trek. And then there's just now this place, this desert, that literally cannot possess water. And that's just very interesting. Or like, say, if magic is usually cast by word, they silenced a field to prevent like enemy magic users from casting magic. And now there's just this area of the world that you can't talk to people, you can't hear your own footsteps, you can't hear if like an animal is creeping up on you. It's just totally silent. And like the effects of these battles in history leaving its mark on the world in a massive and locational way, like they're kind of terraforming in a way. Not really, but yeah. I don't know how to get a better word for that. I sometimes get stuck thinking about the things I just talked about, you know, without necessarily anything new to add. But yeah, it kind of started with the picture of like fire burning underwater. And that's just like beautiful. And then also like the way it happened is like quite interesting and like amazing and also terrible. I have a lot of different worlds. They aren't all connected. And then a lot of different ideas that are kind of their own world, but also it's like I kind of know I won't be able to develop them into a real world or story for themselves. Because some ideas are honestly like a lot to tackle. And just because you came up with the idea doesn't mean you're necessarily that great for the job. Though who knows, maybe when I'm older, I'll get better at writing and such. I mean, I will get better at writing, but I just mean different things. This stream has been doing great for my hydration, apparently. I've just been sipping water the entire time. Anyways, magic objects, which I keep getting distracted and not talking about. I mean, I have talked about them a fair bit. I keep going back and yeah, and like maybe what are magic objects made out of? Cause like in the stories where you have dragons and such, you often like magic objects or spells sometimes need the part of creatures to cast. Other times you need like flowers or such. But and then oftentimes you just need magic. Maybe some sort of ink for upscribing? For scribing? I don't know. for writing the magic object into existence or whatever. For putting the code on the thing. I don't know. You get the point, I think. But like for one thing, why do you need those things? Do you want that to be your limiter? How common do you want these things to be? And if somebody kills a dragon, do you really want them to have access to like thousands of scales when usually it would be so rare you'd only like pick up dragon scales to use and stuff like that's fallen off of naturally, or getting like the combat was fierce enough you actually managed to knock off a scale, and this was an impressive feat. But then you have your hero kill a dragon or something. You need to think about these things beforehand or afterwards to, like, if they just leave behind all those scales or they forget about them, that's going to be a problem. Why don't they make a bunch of magic objects with them? Why did they leave behind such a valuable resources? Why aren't they totally rich, you know? Even if they just get a handful of them, that's still a lot. So you gotta make sure your balance of how common you want to be can't be upset too much by things you might want to happen in the story. I mean, it could be interesting, say, like, you need ink from a kraken or whatever, and they only come up every such and such amount of years or whatever, and maybe it's like a city group-wide, countrywide event, and the spoils get split between everyone, so you do kill a lot of things, but it ends up being very rare given how many people need to be involved in killing it. And even if you don't need them involved, the law is that they will be involved. Like, the system is already in place unless you find another kraken somehow, which are usually at the bottom of the ocean, so hard to access. Like, you're very limited in supply. You're gonna have to, like, get it off of other people. Or maybe people won't trade it at all. Like, it's so precious, they won't trade it. Though maybe you got on a little bit of a fetch quest. Like, they won't trade it because they'll be using it for their own magic objects, but they can't necessarily make them themselves, so they'll be giving it to somebody to make a magic object for them. If you find a magic object that somebody with some ink would have liked to be made, you can trade the magic object for the ink in a sort of, yeah, we didn't make this, but like it does what you want, so we can have the ink, right? Like, they don't need it to be made just for them, they just need it to do the job they wanted. And then if you really want, maybe they found up a way to call one of those squids up, actually. Like, they made a giant magic circle and cast it over the ocean to, like, send a signal down and enrage the squid to come up or entice it. And that could, like, maybe it works, but maybe it's upset the whole ecological system, or it's like never quite stopped. And it disturbed things down there that shouldn't have been disturbed, and now they're coming up. So maybe you got the ink more commonly, and maybe you got the ink that you needed. But that does not mean it ended up being a net good in the long run. And I just really think cause and effect is a fascinating thing. And I really wish cause and effect was in more stories. Like, limitations cause things, which affects things, you know? You're limited on your ink source. You go get some ink. So you call up a squid because you can't kill the one. Then you call up the squid. Yes, you got your ink, but you called up something else too, or you woke something up that wasn't supposed to wake for a long time. Or maybe you were expecting one squid, but you called up multiple, and you don't end up getting your ink at all, or something. And it's like nobody was prepared for these. Usually they have their weapons ready. They have everybody, like with the magic, they have a plan, and it's still dangerous or whatever. And they didn't. They didn't have a plan, and two of them came up. So now it's just like two squids are wreaking havoc upon the world or something. Though I will say, people often do, like, okay, I hate the advice. Like, if you can't think to what to write, just think of what could go wrong or something. I hate that advice. Things shouldn't go wrong just for the sake of going wrong. They should go wrong for logical reasons. And if there's no logical reasons for things going wrong, you shouldn't just manufacture something in. People are way too obsessed with strife when strife actually starts to mean less to a certain extent when it's not like sandwiched with moments of silence or like joy or averageness. You don't get to see what's getting interrupted if you just interrupt it. Like, if you don't see their day-to-day life, you can't really know and empathize as much with what the character's going through. And okay, there is something called humor fatigue, I think, where like things stop being humorous or you need lighter moments in between. I really think people need to keep that in mind. There's probably a, stress or challenge fatigue. So you need the lighter moments and the joy to, make sure people don't get tired of your constant misfortune. And the thing is, misfortune can be logical. You may manufacture a logical reason for each of your misfortunes that you decided to do whenever you couldn't think of a thing to do. But you have to look at it as a whole. Is it logical that this character would experience misfortune at like all of these turns? Just all of them. Is that logical? Usually not. I don't know. I know I differ with most people where I don't think like challenge or strife is that necessary for a good story. I also know my opinion on what like challenge and strife is also different, because I often don't like how it's done in stories. I don't necessarily dislike the thing itself. I thought I disliked angst. And then I was writing my story, and this person was bemoaning something, and I was like, wait, I just wrote angst. And I like it. It made sense. It wasn't too overdone. He came out of it like a bit hopeful or whatever. It wasn't that long of a situation. It wasn't there for the sake of angst. It was there for the sake of the character, their interactions, and the logic of the world. And, I don't like a lot of romances and things. But the thing I've started to realize is a lot of romances are very unromantic to me. I mean, you give a girl flowers. Do you even know if she likes roses? What if she doesn't like roses? That's not very romantic. I mean, picking out her favorite flower is better, but, what if she likes art and she just wants paintbrushes? Or, it's just, romance is not universal. What will be romantic to one person will not be for another, so it should be tailored. And these dates in shows and stuff are, never tailored. Not ever. Or at least very little. I don't know. Magic objects. Okay, I need to use the bathroom. I will be right back. Here. Okay, I have returned. And so, I really encourage people to not cite rule of cool, just do it anyways, not cite, oh, I guess it doesn't fit. I encourage them to make it fit. Not just jam it in there, but to actually make it fit. Welcome back, Cinder. Yeah, thank you. I hope your day is filled with good things and happiness as well. Yeah, so maybe you're very attached to dragon scales being the thing you make magic artifacts off of. But you're also very attached to your hero killing a dragon. But you really don't want them to have so many dragon scales, right? So, as the dragon grows and ages, their magic seeps into their scales. And maybe that's what makes them so tough in part. But as the scale gets filled with magic to capacity, it falls off naturally. So these scales are aging, and maybe it prioritizes one scale at a time typically. So, there will not be too many age scales on this dragon, because otherwise they would have already fell off. Like ripening fruit, these scales are not viable. Like, some of them, you'll be able to get a weaker effect out of them, but only one or two of them will actually be truly as powerful as the ones you got from them falling off naturally. So that would be a way to have, like, have your hero kill the dragon, have dragon scales be the power source or the way you enchant things, and also not give the hero a bunch of dragon scales without convoluted, contrived things of, like, the villain coming in and stealing them, or, oh, I guess when the dragon is killed, okay, this wouldn't be the worst idea. When the dragon is killed, like, its core erupts into, like, a black hole type or the thing where it just, like, destroys everything in that field. So then most of the dragon scales would be gone. That's not actually a bad idea. It's not contrived. That would just be how it works. Unless, of course, none of your other creatures work like that, and you have similar creatures to dragons or something, then it gets a little weird again. Like, you have to consider what you've done to if it will work with your story. But I do really encourage trying to get something to work with your story, because I find often what the limitations make some of the most impactful and, like, cool aspects of something. Perhaps because it seems more realistic, it just seems cooler? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Like, extrapolation. Well, welcome into Discord, and have a good day. See you around. Yeah, some of the most impactful, like, things from my world comes from, hey, I want this thing, I also want this thing, I really don't want this thing, so let's make a good reason I can have the things I want, you know? And some of the, like, maybe because it's complex, it just seems fuller, and, like, that's a nice feeling, and it's, like, really cool, and it seems more real. I don't know. Yeah, you can get a lot of epic history like that. Though I do acknowledge it's a lot of hard work, so if that's taking your joy out of the experience, then don't hinder yourself like that. And sometimes a little bit is better than nothing, so, like, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You know, I struggle with that some, but at some point you have to say, okay, this is in the realms of plausibility, or ultimately, like, I just wanted this, and it's not, like, a super problem. Like, the fact that there's not many evil people in Demeria. Like, I have an excuse, but ultimately I just said, hey, I don't want it. And same with, like, the creatures themselves that bless people. I didn't want any of them to be evil, but just, like, intelligent species, one of them might end up evil or not that great, but, like, I didn't want that, so I didn't do it. I think the setup of the story is a lot more okay to just decide things, to set the fundamentals, because suspension of disbelief is a thing, and it's not a bad thing, and, like, you're gonna have it. The only problem is when you've told us to suspend our disbeliefs on one thing, and then you're like, okay, but suspend your disbeliefs on this thing, and it's like, okay, but like you're pulling us apart here. Those things do not like coincide. Like it's just it doesn't work. Okay. Oh. And ultimately, I do have a preference for things that are more unique. Like who tried to make something that they loved, or who tried to do something new, which I think usually is coming from people who tried to make something they loved. It may have problems, but I'm a lot more likely to like it than something that's just like standard but technically better from like writing rules, perspectives, and such, or even logical consistency. Depending on how logically inconsistent it gets. I don't know how bad that can get. I haven't seen it myself, so. I might be running out of chatting topics or just chatting energy. I don't know. We'll see. Oh, wow. Almost pure yapping for an hour and 47 minutes. Well, magic objects. How to make them. Bert, welcome in. It's good to see you. I'm doing good. I've really enjoyed this yapping session. I've moved on from magic objects several times, and now I'm like, not sure what more to yap about. Let's see. Magic objects in general, yep. Origins, kind of covered. The makers, yeah. Why is it always history? Also kind of covered. I guess I could move on to a different topic. It's not like I haven't done that 15 times by now. Yeah, I hope you're well, Bert. Yon made this cat. Yon made this cat for me. It's cute. Let's see. I have a couple other topics on a document. Though maybe I should, call natural stopping points? I don't know. I struggle when to moderate. I mean, I just struggle with moderation. Yeah. Yeah, that's, Yon Tome. Or however you pronounce it. I butcher them. I've rated them a couple times. You can see them doing art on their stream sometimes. Yeah, well, magic users should also be fighters. So true. Like, what? Okay, so, yeah, you have magic. You can cast fireballs. But hear me out. You should also carry a sword. Because, like, if you run out of projectiles, Like, I'm pretty sure archers in medieval times didn't just not carry a sword, and that's kind of the equivalent of a magic user just going helpless. Like, and there's the thing. So you can cast magic, right? Which means perhaps you should cast magic in combat or when combat allows for it. Like, you know, you're fighting, you use like wind magic to speed you up, or you strengthen the power of your impact unexpectedly. Maybe you make your sword able to cut through things that it shouldn't naturally be able to, or like you go to swing your sword and you actually cast fireball. Like feints, I don't know how important feints are in battle. I think battles sometimes usually revolve around to just hitting people with metal sticks, but I don't know. I don't know enough about the subject. But yeah, for more one-on-one based combat, you go to attack with a sword, they're ready to block a sword. They're not ready to dodge a fireball. So, like, there's no reason to not let them. I know sometimes people are like metal messes up with magic users, but in that case, use a wooden weapon or a bone weapon. There are bone blades, I think, or like obsidian. You know? You don't just go without a weapon. And like, sure, maybe like magic, like armor is too heavy. I don't think actually most knights wore heavy plate mail armor. I think they put it on before the battle and not really necessarily even. Well, I don't know if they marched in it. I've watched somebody who's this was their subject of study, but I don't remember good enough, and yeah. Anyways, but there are other types of armor. Like one of the more common types, brigandine, or no, don't trust me on names. Don't trust me on names or what they mean. But it's padding. And like that goes under armor or over armor. And it's just like a standard armor. And it's actually like does a pretty good job. And chainmail also, like chainmail in the padding. I don't know enough to talk about the subject, I feel like. I don't even remember what I was talking about, really. Magic? Magic users being fighters, I guess? I feel like I got distracted. I totally got distracted. And you may think, oh, she's probably highly caffeinated. I have not had caffeine in like 6 hours. I mean, it's not the longest time, but it's not like I just drank like a large quantity of caffeine or anything. Yeah, like 6.5 hours. The only reason magic users usually don't use heavy armor is balancing. But it's not a given that you do that kind of balance. Obviously, magic needs limitations or it gets boring, but it could be done in another way if you want a magic wielding tank. Yeah, true. And depending on your world and how exclusive magic is, either magic users can just be better most of the time, or the swordsmen have to branch out into very specific spells of magic, and then they actually end up better than a magic user, a dedicated magic user, in the area of combat and combat magic. Say, they don't know how to cast very many spells, or necessarily the spell in many situations, but they know exactly how to, like, chain it with their attacks or something. It could be very interesting. And on the other hand, maybe you would have more dedicated magic users be perhaps highly valued, and you're not expected to go anywhere without a bodyguard or something. Like, maybe that's just the expected way of things. And also, just because you should definitely be carrying a sword doesn't mean you're anything but average at the sword. It just means, like, you're not completely helpless without your magic. Like, you can do attacks and such. And then I guess, depending on how intensive you establish your training for magic or physical things, that could be a difference. Or if you really want your magic users and your fighters to be separate in, like, magic users being frail, combat users not, you could establish a sort of, I think, yin and yang energy situation has been associated with the mind and the physical. Perhaps having too much physical energy, muscle and such, actually, like, makes your mental magic energy less able to interact with the world or something. Like, maybe unbalancing is the best way to actually do anything in this world. I mean, that would be maybe a bit of cultural appropriation in that you're taking the idea out of context, but I think if you don't establish it as a yin-yang thing and just did physical and mental energy, it's kind of a thought you could come up with, like, without the culture. I don't think you should tie it too closely there. I just often use examples of real world ideas to try and get across my idea without reinventing the language or the term. Yeah. I don't know. Or you could end up with the moral of the story is like, yeah, it may grant you great power, but, like, you shouldn't do this. Yeah, I don't know. I run off in all directions with ideas. Kind of like the Sith in Star Wars. Oh, I didn't actually know much about the Sith in Star Wars. I do think I remember something about Book Anakin, like somebody telling me that, like he does actually have a method of healing, but he gets so happy when it works that, like, the anger or, like, whatever you need to power this magic stops working. Is it kind of like that, or is there something else about the Sith? The Jedi don't use all the powers the Sith do, even though they could, just out of moral reasons. Okay. Yeah. That's interesting. Give them access to, like, a loaded gun or a giant red button and say, don't use, don't press, don't look. I don't know much about Star Wars either, so there might be other reasons. Don't know. Fair, totally fair. I do that all the time. I think this might be more water than I've drinking in days. I mean, I'm definitely exaggerating, but yeah. Hmm. Uh, yeah, I'm not sure I have much more to say on magic users should also be fighters. Enhancers is kind of a whole topic that can take its own stream. Probably, yeah. Prophecies. So much. Just so much. I actually wrote two little things on prophecies, so I might spell check the one and like post them to Discord. I'll see about that. Healers should be powerful. Kind of talked about that yesterday. I didn't prepare enough talking points. Or I prepared just enough and I should call moderation, but I don't want to. I suppose I could always switch to a game. I don't know though. That's like a whole different kind of attention. This is a nice screen I made. And I'm glad the chat works. The cat probably won't live there forever though. Who knows? I do kind of like it. Maybe it will just end up living here forever. uh, I wonder if there's anybody to raid. Sometimes that makes my decision whether I could actually raid somebody if I quit. Nope, nobody's on. Nobody's on. One day, perhaps I'll expand my list of streamers to raid. Hmm. So this is what happens when me and my sister talk. We have large areas of silence where we just like go on our own phones, read something or whatever, and then we pick up where we never left off and just yap away for a couple more hours. Um, hmm. Yeah, I'm very shy about rating people. I will check them out at least for laser. I don't mind the suggestion at all, to be clear. Hmm. Definitely good vibes. I think one of the main problems is I don't actually want to stop though. Hmm. Maybe I got some notes in my phone or something to talk about. They're so unorganized. Uh, yeah, there's so many ideas, but like, which ones? Just do some pacing. Just put some earphones in my phone to actually check this person's voice out and such. Yeah, I might be able to read them. Just a vibe check a little longer. I'm overly cautious. I often lurk so long before following. And like I follow at the end of the stream that I've been called several times. It's just like, I'm sorry, you just showed up. I'm ending now. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I followed. Yeah, seems like. Oh, cool. Yeah, I think I could rate them. The question now remains, do I actually want to end? Yeah, okay. Um, no promises. I might be back to play a game later, but I think a time to chill and to change tracks would be good. So I will send you off to Crimson Moon. uh Yeah, let me just follow him so I can find myself in the follow list. Oh, right. Raid. Following. Yeah. As always, all my VODs go to YouTube. Just letting you know, the ending of Concrete Genie will take a little while, like a while longer to get there. I've downloaded the VOD because part of it was muted from Twitch for copyright music in the credit. And I need to figure out how to mute that in Stream Editor. So that'll take a little longer. Follow me if you want to find me again. I notify Discord when I go live. And you can get little updates on whether I'm going to stream or what I'm going to stream sometimes. Or if I'm not going to stream. Yeah, and then I haven't been painting recently, but I do post my art there. That was the thing, so let me... Yeah, let us start the raid. I hope everybody has a good day. Bye now. Sending you off. I always forget to close the stop streaming button.